Hey everyone,
I'm Brenda.
and I'm Julia, and you're listening to Roaring Twenties Podcast.
Your 20s are known as both the most exciting and most confusing years of your life. We're here to share our stories, to have real and raw conversations, and best of all, to make you feel a little less alone.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Roaring Twenties Podcast. Today we have on the three incredible women behind the Black Girls Texting Podcast, Chelsea, Glynn, and Sade. We are so excited to have them here. Black Girls Texting is a show about unpacking the shit that goes down in our group chat, which we all know is where all the real shit goes down. So we're so excited to have you guys. We're going to be talking about friendship, working with friends, friend breakups, everything that comes along with being and having female friendships in your 20s, because that shit's hard. So, and who would be better than you guys, because you're the group chat queens. So hey ladies, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having us.
We're so excited. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of unison saying of the same things. Do you guys just you've been working together for so long now, do you all just finish each other's sentences and say all the same things at all the same time?
Glynn and I do a lot.
Yes. It's happening
so
more and more.
Cute. It's so cute. So
But that was perfect, actually.
It was amazing. It was incredible. But let's go around. Each of you take a minute, introduce yourselves, tell us who you are, where you're from, and how old you are, since it's Roaring 20s.
I'll kick it off. Oh, go ahead, Chelsea.
No, you go.
I'm Glynn. On the show, I say at Bed-Stuy Brat. That's my handle, but also because I'm from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. And I just turned 30, y'all. I'm not even
off the pod
anymore. Should I even be here? Or I can offer elderly.
Yeah,
wisdom.
you're wise now. You're wise. We need you. Amazing.
Sade? We'll go from oldest to youngest.
Wow. Okay.
Wow,
I'm Sade. I am 29. And what else?
Where you're from?
From Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, New York City.
Incredible.
Yeah. I'm still in the club.
I'm also from Brooklyn.
Barely.
Oh, we're in Brooklyn.
Yes.
I was born in Sheepshead Bay.
Oh, cool.
That's what's up.
Love it. All right. Now Chelsea's going to lie. Go for it.
My name's Chelsea, aka Charles Pinky, and I'm 25. Just kidding. I'm 29. And I'm from Flatbush, Brooklyn. And you said Sheepshead Bay. I have such distinct memories of my mom dragging me to Loman's. There used to be a Loman's there.
Oh, I also have distinct memories of that.
Hours
amazing.
in that store.
Oh my God. Yeah, me and my grandma used to go there all the time. That's incredible. Well, ladies, we're so excited to have you. We have so many questions for you guys, and you guys have so much fun on your show, and we just love the way that you guys interact. So we think that you're going to help us so much with this topic that I feel like we don't really talk about too much, navigating female friendships. So Brenda, kick it off.
Yes. Okay. So, what led you guys to actually creating your show? What led you to adding a microphone into the mix? For me and Julia, we've been friends for over 15 years now, which is crazy, but it's so funny because we used to have these conversations all the time. And then one day we were like, you know what? Let's add a microphone. So where did that all begin for you guys? And where was the idea of your podcast in general? Where'd that come from?
This is
Oh my God.
a funny
We're
one.
always pausing when this question is asked because we all have different versions of the story.
Interesting.
To take it.
Well, I mean, we
Go
had
ahead,
a group
Chelsea.
chat with a few more girls, and we would talk about just everything in the group chat. The topics were such a range from negotiation with your salary, or what hairstyle are you wearing on vacation, or what do I respond to this kind of text from a boy? So it was a big range, and we were all at slightly different places in our lives. I think I was still in college, and I think maybe someone else in the group was out of college. So different perspectives, because in those years, I feel 1 year can make such a difference in the 20s.
Oh yeah.
But Yeah. So yeah, we just like, I don't know, we were like, this is very interesting. And the way how Black women are represented in media is like, it's not like we're normal people. I think that's why shows like Insecure did so well.
Yeah.
Because it just showed like, you know, Black women are just regular human beings.
Yeah.
So we were like, let's just add a mic to this. And we went to the studio. I think the first time it was like 6 people on the mic.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, that one
Yeah.
was the
We weren't even in a studio. We were like in my living room on the floor talking around one mic with
Oh
like
my-
a
yes.
surround sound thing. It was
That's how
chaotic.
it started. Make it work.
But yeah, and then we just kept going and now we're here.
Oh,
What is it,
absolutely
like 3 years now, y'all?
It's more.
4? Almost
We're
4?
gonna coming up. Yep.
Yeah.
Long
Crazy.
time.
Wow.
That's so exciting. It is. And what you said, Chelsea, about just every year in your 20s being different, it's crazy because now Julia and I are coming up on 2 years of the show. And we just think about, like, there are moments where we actually sit back and we're like, how did we get here? Because we're just in such a different place even 2 years ago. And even things that we might manifest in a couple of months ago are totally different than what we expected now, maybe even better than what we envisioned. So it really is so true that that's a huge reason why we do what we do too, is just because things are constantly happening and changing around us, and having conversations like these, just like you said, really showing this like human side of all of us is so powerful, because obviously there are the highlight reels, there are all these things that paint, you know, us to be different or to want to look different to others, or portray our lives in a certain way, but keeping it in this real like group chat type of sense where we're just like giving it as it is,
Mhm.
makes such a difference and really does make people feel less alone.
Yeah.
How old are you guys?
I'm 25.
And I'm 26.
Babies.
Oh, the youth.
My
Isn't it funny
people.
how it feels so different? Like, it's really not that big a difference, but it feels like.
Yeah,
does.
no, you
It
change a
does.
lot. Yeah.
So much. I mean,
I'm not who I was at 25.
it's so crazy. We just had this conversation literally on our last episode, because I feel like it's such our culture is so like, if you're not achieving like right now all of the things that
Mhm.
you want, you're like failing, or you're losing
Behind.
time, or like you're behind. And there's like such that rush mentality. But then when you take a step back to think about it, we're like, holy shit, it's only been 2 years since we started the show, and we are completely different people. Like, so much has happened in that 2 years, and not even just in terms of like accomplishments, but in terms of like who we are as people on the inside, how much we've learned and grown. It's just so crazy, and it's like it makes you take a step back to be like, okay, why am I rushing all the time? Like, 2 years
Mhm.
isn't a
Mhm.
long time, and I've gained so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Life is-
I was gonna say I rushed through like my early 20s. I was
Mhm.
like constantly like, what's next? What am I gonna do? But like the
Yeah.
accomplishment thing, I felt like the
Yep.
last few years of my 20s, everything like started to slow down and I
Wow.
could take a little bit more stock of everything. Those are some sweet years.
Oh,
They're coming up for y'all.
so excited. Saturn return.
That's probably why that was happening actually. They were,
Ooh.
yeah, there was some chaos too.
Blame it on the stars. Blame it on the stars. But yeah, and we love, I mean, we're so lucky. We feel like the show is so selfish because we love to get to talk to even someone who has like 1 year more of like life experience. Like, you have experience, and it's,
Mhm.
we like feel like we get to cheat because we're like, okay, like tell us, like, what are like later 20s like? Like, what's 30 like? Like, let us know how to navigate it, because this shit's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard being in your 20s.
Right.
Especially-
You'll get more money and keep, so life is more fun with that.
Yeah. We love that. But back to the show, and kind of tying into starting to talk about this friendship conversation. Working with friends can be really hard. How do you
Mhm.
guys, what are like your top tips for women who want to create or work with their friends?
I think one good tip is probably checking in. Just like taking some temperature checks. I think we've really grown a lot in terms of how we communicate, but there, as you said, there were some moments that were very difficult. And yeah, I think checking in, just like understanding that you think one way and someone else thinks another way, and that's okay. And so I don't know, as much as like you're passionate about your feelings, figuring out how to communicate it clearly, and also understanding that as much passion you have about your ideas and thoughts, they probably have the same amount of passion about theirs.
Yeah, totally. I would also say, like, truly get into business with a friend who's business savvy, you respect and admire and think is valuable. Because I've seen a lot of friends try to go into business with each other, and one person is like really into it and the other person is like kind of into it, and they're like, this is like an experiment for them, or they just don't work the same kind of way, or really the other person might be not as professional, however they consider professionalism in whatever industry they're working in, and their businesses just fall apart. And I think that's what I love about working with Sade and Chelsea, is they're both extremely ambitious and driven and organized and like professional and business savvy and all those things. So I think we hold each other accountable in those ways. And this is also like a really small tip that we just adopted. But speaking of the group chat, so we have like our own like messy chat, and then we have our like work chat. And it's nice to kind of just set those boundaries between the two, because then we have a space to just be ourselves. And then the other one, it's like, okay, check the work chat. Like some stuff is actually happening there that needs to be addressed. And it like keeps us organized and
That's
balanced.
a good one.
Really good tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I forgot we did that.
I forgot we did that too. Yeah, I was it your idea?
Yes, it was. Because y'all were like, that's not gonna work.
I don't know, but
Sade's been trying to get
It
us to
doesn't
be on
matter.
Slack, and
we could not do the Slack child. That was
no.
That's a whole nother ball game. That's another thing.
It's a little bit too professional.
It's quite a lot. But I will say, like, this might sound harsh, but sometimes like you should not go into business with friends. Like they just have to be like realistic. Like maybe this isn't for us. Like you can consult with a friend, and like they can like maybe come in and help you work on something that they have like a strength in, and treat it just as you would business, and then vice versa. But sometimes some friends are not meant to go into business together.
No, and I think that's really like realistic advice, because I think we can, obviously this is a time where there's a lot of opportunity to create and a lot of opportunity to just like make something of yourself and of a business, which is so beautiful. But it's so true. Like Julia and I have definitely had these conversations of, we have such deep friendships and we're very lucky and we're so grateful, but it really does take a specific type of like connection, and I think openness and willingness when it comes to actually going into business with someone. Because beyond what you mentioned before with like the ambition, I think that's huge. It's not to say other friends are not ambitious, but I think there has to be this equal division of like give and take, not feeling like somebody doesn't have the same belief. And I think that that's something that Julia and I have really had from the beginning, even when the holiday season comes upon us and, we get a little distracted by being with family and celebration and all the things. Our belief in what we bring to the table individually and together and in our mission has never wavered. And I think that that's a big key when it comes to putting your passion into something, especially because, as I'm sure you ladies know, with podcasting, you might not always see like the fruits of your labor right away when it comes to like your reach or your audience. And it's something that Julia and I have definitely been navigating, is when you care so deeply about something and when you want to impact people, you want to reach more people, not for the, selfishness of it, but because you're like, more people need to hear this. So yeah, between all those things, but to my point, it's so true that not everybody meshes in the same way, or
it's kind of like dating. Like you can think like a guy is like super awesome, but if you don't have like the same vision of the future, or like the same way you operate, or the same like basic values, like a relationship is probably not going to work.
Yeah. And I love that you like equated it to dating too, because yes, you do have to have like a certain, I don't know, chemistry, but also you have to put in the work, right? And when you're dating someone, you get into arguments, you get into fights. Like it's not La La Land, Cinderella fairy tale story, but like if you care about it, then you put in the work too. So
True.
It is like dating.
Yeah,
it is. And I think that comes along with too having those like more more I guess, difficult conversations. Like, honestly, Julia and I just had one more recently. I wouldn't say it was difficult, but just more so like, okay, here's where we are right now. And how can we adjust? Oh, muffin. Like, how can we adjust? How can we kind of shift things that we're doing, or where are we comfortable? Where can we kind of, get into a level of uncomfortable in a way that'll serve us? So there's so many different like routes that we could go down. But I think I just love what you guys say in general. I think it comes with boundaries too.
Yes.
Especially now, which I'm sure, Chelsea, you're going to experience now moving to LA. Like with Julia, there's something where I consciously now have to know, like, okay, Julia wakes up technically 3 hours later than I do. I need to respect that she's not going to be, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at the time when I might be, So that as well.
Yeah, no,
that's a really good point. Yeah.
Keep that in mind, ladies.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna hold you guys to that one.
Be
Brenda
fine.
said. But speaking of like respecting boundaries, you guys all have other jobs as well as podcasting. How do you navigate having multiple passions and careers at the same time, and also respecting each other within that?
Yeah. I mean, we have a shared calendar, which I think is super helpful.
Amazing.
So we try our best to put like, non-podcast things on there, so everyone's aware in terms of planning, to be mindful of those things. I think that's one way we balance it.
I was telling them about it earlier, and I was like, it's so funny because I'll just be like, Sade busy, and Chelsea will be like, Chelsea dinner downtown with blah blah blah,
Yeah,
and
she
blah
will.
blah blah.
Chelsea nails at such and such and such.
And I'm like, okay, got it. I know now. I know where to find you.
For your flight to LA is so dramatic. Like, she put her flight in our calendar, and it's like, Chelsea, one-way flight to Los Angeles.
She wants you to know she's not
She's never coming back.
One way.
One way.
But that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like my calendar with you, I also have, I have a partner. And so we also have a shared calendar. So like, I do put those details in there, and then it's for both of you guys.
We love it.
It's fine.
We
Both
love
my
it.
relationships. Yes.
Yeah. I also, this is like kind of bad, but I work around the podcast at work because listen, sometimes you gotta do a little bit of both. And when I'm like sending a work email, then I'll like check Black Girls Texting emails, or like just get them both done, because I'm very fortunate that I am in a position where like at my job, I will have time that I can like work on those things. So I'm always just like in work mode, and don't let your job, like your main job, like suck the life out of you. Like you still should be able to contribute to your passions. Literally, when I was living in California, I lived in the Bay, I would like leave my desk, go to like a different floor and record the podcast because they were already home. And I would be like in an office, like, okay, hey guys, like
we've had some of those.
But hey, like you have to make it work. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like try not to get caught, but I definitely feel like you should be able to like balance the two, because I don't think that anyone should have like their main job, like sucking the life out of them. And then you have to go home and do the other thing, like it can get kind of hard.
Right. But at the same time, we respect the fact that we have jobs that we need in order to live.
Yes.
And so like if someone's like, hey, like, I know we were trying to do this, but like now I have a meeting on my calendar, then it is what it is. We have to adjust.
Yep.
Totally.
Point.
Like literally, I missed a recording this morning because I had to work.
I'm not gonna lie though, I didn't know it was at, I got that confused.
I didn't know it was at 11 either, girl. I don't know how that happened. I was gonna say one more thing about that, the balance. I don't know, I think just we're patient with each other and understanding, just kind of adding on to what Chelsea said. And I mean, personally, I've found it difficult to juggle things since we started this podcast, but I think it's just a result of me having just some weird ass jobs that just like I was still in person when they were remote, so like they could do things in the afternoon that I couldn't, and just I don't know, I've always been kind of professionally like fucking scrambled and doing 50 things. So I'm just in a state of chaos. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that changes in the 30s.
thriving. But we relate on such a deep level. And I think it really goes to show that having that type of just like, I guess maybe you've spoken about the type of boundaries and relationships and whatnot, but to an extent too, I feel like for us, Ju, like it's almost also unspoken the way that our like dynamic works, that just like patience, relentless understanding we need to adjust. And I feel like being adaptable is something that's probably not talked about as much when it comes to both friendships and friendships that turn into business. Is, you know, this, I think sometimes we can play like a blame game or, you know, all that stuff. But I think when you really know where someone's heart is and where all their stuff, you know, where their intentions are, it's not this like judgment or they care less than I do. It's like, okay, this is the reality of the situation. This is how we're going to adjust. And I think that obviously we all know personally when it comes to scheduling, it's hard to schedule people's lives together and whatnot. But I also do the same thing, by the way, at work. Like someone will walk in the office and I'm like, oh, this is podcast stuff, but I'll get back to that soon. I'm just like open about it at this
You got to make room for your passion.
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't tell people at work about it, but I feel like if I did, I would be like, I'm working on my podcast. Sorry, I'll get back to you.
Right.
Sure. And obviously only with my coworkers, not with our customers or anything. But
Imagine.
Please hold.
The creativity comes in and I'm like, I'm the type of person that when I get a spark of inspiration, I have to do it in that moment.
I'm the same way.
Great idea for an ebook. This is a great idea for, I don't even know, our new media kit, like whatever. I just got to do it.
She's great like that. She's amazing like that. But yeah, that's it. So many good points. And I think like what you guys said about making time for your passion, like it's hard. It's fucking hard. There's only so many hours in the day. And like, yeah, there's other things we need to do and not just work, like life things and other relationship things. Like it's really hard. But if you really love something, like you guys have done it. You guys have done it with 3 people together. Like you find a way to make it work. And it's just amazing to see, you know, what comes out of like the fruits of those labors. And it's not always easy and it's not always pretty, but you find a way to make it work. And when you have good people to do it with, it makes it a whole lot better.
Yeah, totally.
For sure.
Yeah, but let's move into friendships even more, because friendships in your 20s can be really tricky. Like everyone has their own shit going on. People are moving, like people are starting, you know, different phases of their lives. And I feel like in your 20s, it's like kind of the one time in our life where you can be in completely different phases than like your best friend. Like you could be like married with a baby or you could be like single and like doing like
At
traveling
the
the
club.
world.
Right.
At the club. Like it's so true. It could be like so different. So what are some things that you guys believe make really strong female friendships? Like what do you look for in a friend? What do you think are the top things that make friendships at this age like lasting and strong?
I love this question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
I can't wait to hear your answers.
I mean, I feel like
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing that popped into my head is like the friends that like check in on you. I feel like that's really valuable because, you know, everyone's like life portrayals right now are like of like perfection. And so the friends that are like, hey, like, how's this going? How's that going? And like actively care. I think that's really important when I think about like my friends. And then like, it makes you feel like, it reminds you that you also need to check in on them, if that makes sense. Like people who are more like inward and like, you know, deal with things on their own. Yeah, I think it's good when friends check in.
Yeah, totally. Go ahead, Sade.
I was gonna say, it's so funny. I'm saying the opposite. I'm like, I love friends that you're just like, never speak to you, and then you speak to them, and then they're like, hey girl, and you just jump.
What's that a result of though? Like if you were to think about like what makes you able to pick things back up with those friends.
I think it's like just the understanding of like you're doing things, I'm doing things, and then you kind of have those moments of like catching up. But I actually do need to be better about checking in, because I realize I have a lot of friends that are always checking in with me, and I'm like, hey, and then I'm like, oh shit, I'm kind of dropping the ball here. So it definitely is good to check in. But I also do love those friends that are just like, yeah, I was gonna use an extreme example, like my friend who has a kid, like, yeah, like he's teething now and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I am so far from that, but I love that for you.
Right, love that for
you know,
Mhm.
and we talk about whatever, and like we're just able to jump in. It happens a lot actually with my friends from college, who I'm not as close with, of course. But like it's nice that we can have kind of like those moments, or they just like pop up, and you kind of can be like, wow, like I really cherish that we had that. But the deep ones, I think the more like close relationships, like relationships we have, you definitely have to like water that
Yeah.
plant.
Like, I think we're all talking about communication in a lot of ways. And I think I was actually just talking to a friend of mine who was considering like blowing up her whole friend circle. She lives in another city. And she's like, I think I want out of this group. Like, we talk all the time, but when we speak, I don't feel like we're having like productive conversations, or like there's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of like, I don't know. She's like, she's not being like fulfilled by their conversations.
Is this who I think
like,
it is?
Probably.
Okay.
And I think that like even, you know, the conversation, we decided to take the conversations from our group chat on air, because we were really having conversations that were like making us think and push ourselves and grow. And we're not just like sitting around, like we love a good key, but we also will get into like the realness of life. And challenge one another, and motivate each other. So I think that's one thing. And then I don't know, this is like not really maybe related to the lasting idea, but something I think a lot about my friendships in my 20s, it was marked by like friends I could go on adventures with and like just experience life with. Like we've done a ton of traveling together, made a lot of memories together in that time when we could just be free and like not tied down and like uninhibited. That I think those will be some of the like most incredible memories of my lifetime, like the crazy things I did with my friends in my 20s, like in Bali, like swimming in a pool, drinking Glico, and like being,
oh my god,
Yes.
oh my god.
We all
Honestly,
want that.
Flashback.
That's so valuable, because I do think that in a very big way, the whole like hustle culture vibe does play a role in your 20s. Like this whole idea that you know, should have everything figured out, which is totally the opposite of what we portray on our show. Very much so it's cool to not have it figured out, and then you'll learn along the way. But with that, I do think that's like really beautiful to think about, because I think sometimes we get so caught up in like doing that we forget to like really live and experience and remember that those types of memories are things that's what's going to stick with us, not the night that we, you know, pulled an all-nighter to submit something for a deadline. And it's not to say those things don't happen, and that we obviously do need some sort of something to keep us being able to pay our bills, but yeah, just to really remember that those are the moments that are going to stick with us. So I think we all need that reminder.
Yeah.
I also have to say, I do like Instagram for this, where I might not talk to someone very often, but like we'll engage a lot. Like when I see their story, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this looks so fun. Like, where are you? What are you up to? And then like we're having like random conversations, or like sharing memes, or just like having like those little moments that like keep you kind of connected with someone. I will say like that's kind of like a weird plus of social media, because sometimes it's like, all right, oversharing, but I'm also like, great, I get to see you like in the middle of nowhere with your family, with whatever you're doing, and I haven't seen you in a long time, so it's like a nice way to keep up with people.
100%. Yeah, it's hard, and that is totally a perk of social media. It's like, okay, and I feel that way, especially like I just moved to LA, and most of my really great friends that I've grown up with all my life are in New York, and so I don't get to see them, you know, or talk as much even as we would have in the past. But it's like, oh, I feel like I still know everything going on because like I see what you're doing on social media. But like Chelsea said, the importance of that, you know, checking in, because sometimes what we share is not always really what's going on, and like those people that you really care about, making sure to like take that time, I think is so important. So I'm so glad that you brought up that tip, Chelsea. And I also think something that I'm really learning, kind of going off of what you said, Sade, is that everyone has their own shit going on, and just like understanding, like I think being really understanding of like expectations of people, of like, okay, like you have a lot going on, but I know that doesn't mean that you don't love me, or that like you don't value our friendship. It's just like kind of back what we said about working with boundaries, like understanding that, you know, what can you expect from someone at certain periods of their life, and like what do you expect from a friend, and like communicating that to your friends, because we're all in our own crazy 20s moments, like figuring this shit out, and just having an an open understanding of like what that means to
Yeah.
value your friendship, because sometimes it
Great.
is as simple as, yeah, we don't talk for 2 weeks and then we like get on the phone and really catch up and feel really fulfilled.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, Ju, when it comes to not only setting appropriate expectations, but I think that what you said about communicating that to people is important. And it's not, I think that that's different from over explaining, which I've had my phases with, we both have, when it comes to like justifying or over explaining situations that you don't need to. But I do think that communicating is important, because in the same way as with love languages, right? We feel love differently, we feel supported differently. So sometimes we could have these narratives in our head of like, oh, they don't care as much, or they don't, I don't know, feel the same way, whatever. When in reality, it's like, no, they just don't show it in that way, or they don't operate in that way. So I think especially when we're going through shifts and whatnot, it's so powerful to be able to say, hey, you know what? I have this going on right now. I might not be as communicative as maybe you're used to, because I think that's something too, is like, I know even for myself and Julia, we love each other so much, but we talk less than we used to when we were on more similar schedules, just based on, I'm asleep when she's awake. But, we have this understanding that it's not a reflection of those things. It doesn't mean she cares less or I care less, but it's just kind of the season of life that we're in right now, and also the time zone. And that's okay. But I think just communicating it is so powerful to lessen that room for like assumption or creating stories where they don't exist.
Yeah. I actually saw a post about that on Instagram. I was going to share it with Glenn. When I find it again, I'll share it with you, because Glenn and her text messages and not responding to them. But
it was all I'm thinking about right now. I'm like, damn, I don't answer people back ever. What did it say, Chelsea?
The post was basically like, life is busy and like everyone's dealing with their own shit, and that's understandable. But like it like a little piece of communication goes a really long way. Like even if you just say like, I'm so swamped right now, but like when things slow down, I'm gonna get back to you, or like we can chat, like versus not saying anything. I'll find the post for you, Glenn.
That's an amazing that's an amazing tip. It is a really, really good tip.
No,
and it also buys you some time. Not that you should need to buy yourself time. Like people should be understanding too. Like everyone has shit going on, but like, like, hey, right now is kind of crazy. Like, but things will slow down eventually. And I'm thinking of you.
Right. Just to say like, I hear you, I see you, I love you. Like I will get back to this. I promise. Like that goes that is such a good
really
tip.
Does. And I think sometimes for us people that love to like, that are just such givers and like want to give more. Like I know for myself, sometimes I like I definitely have maybe too much of a sense of urgency when it comes to getting back to people. But I do think that because of the way that I value people in my life, sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to be able to give them my all in this moment. And you don't always have the capacity for that. So I think also like Julia is very good about this, that if she doesn't have the capacity for something, she's so clear about it. And it still makes you feel acknowledged and know that they care enough to respond. They care enough and want to give you their best, but they don't have it in them right now. So like, love you, sending you, all the vibes. But and I think little things like that are so helpful, because they still show that people are connected. They're actively wanting to listen to you and care for you. But I think also us being open about when we don't have the capacity also shows that humanness in us. And I think shows that we don't always have that, and that's okay.
Right.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, I got to get to the bottom of my text messaging anxiety.
It's okay. You can do it, Glenn. You can do it.
Unpack that
goal for me this year.
Hey, that's a good goal. And starting at the place of like I hear you. Like I'll get back to you. Like just starting there. It like what Chelsea said. It's not like buying, kind of not the right word, but buying more time. It does. It totally does. But Glenn, actually, I do want to come to you because you brought it up in the last question, and it's something that we never freaking talk about, and is so important, about like friend breakups, like what you said your friend was going through. So like, that happens as we move on in our lives, as we grow up. Like sometimes certain friendships don't serve us anymore. So I would love for you to just expand on that a little bit, and what your advice might be for someone that is looking to break up with a friend.
Ooh, yeah.
hard.
We
That's hard.
we have had a couple friend breakups within we talked about this when we first recorded. We had 6 girls on the show and now there's 3. So there have been some breakups.
Please
And
go
those didn't
into it.
happen very amicably. The one in particular was like extremely messy for me and like painful, and like even if I see her in the street now, I don't know what the energy is gonna give. But it's been several years since she and I were friends, and I feel like so relieved to be like that chapter is closed. I don't know if there's any way that could have ended amicably. I don't. What do you guys think? Like, is it possible to have an amicable friend breakup?
Yeah, I think
There's so many feelings.
sometimes
Yeah.
naturally, like just some people just like naturally separate.
Yeah.
And it's like no beef. It's just like we kind of grew apart. But yeah, I think friendship breakups are hard. They could almost be worse than like a relationship breakup, or like feels like a death sometimes.
Yeah.
It feels like, and then it depends how it's done too. And then it depends like, were you the one that wanted it to end, or were you the friend that got broken up with? Like, but like at the end of the day, it's okay. Like it's like tough in the moment, but then you like kind of, like think about how tough like all of those friendship breakups were, like all the crying, all the like anxiety about it, and like now it's years later, it's that was a
It's
chapter.
fine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I always wonder. I mean, I had a bad friend breakup and I was not very good at doing it. So I probably shouldn't be giving this advice, but in retrospect, I feel like, in an ideal world, you can be able to tell the person like, I think we're growing apart, going in different directions because of these things, and kind of like just put it out on the table and be super honest and hopeful, like super amicable. I feel like that'll be very challenging unless you guys are both on the same page, but at least to give the person an understanding and a perspective so that they at least can take that in and know like, okay, we weren't aligning on these things, these opinions change, where we used to really agree on something we no longer do, or just whatever it may be, because I think that does happen. Like I have changed so much and I've seen friends change drastically, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, this doesn't mesh anymore, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like it's not like the person is like a terrible person, it's just like we have different wants, needs, like any developing relationship, and that's okay. But
yeah, I'm not the best at, like I have a friend now that she lives in another city, and I haven't seen her in person in like several years. We kind of text, but she just texted me like yesterday. I was like, I miss you so much. Like we have to catch up. And truthfully, I haven't really been trying to catch up. Like I'm just kind of like, I was taking the distance and like not being around each other very much. It's like a kind of like a fade out. And now I'm like, what do I do about this? Because I'm not gonna like be like, yeah, let's get on a call, or like we should FaceTime, because I feel like it would be awkward, and I actually really don't want to spend my time doing that.
Yeah.
So like I don't know what to do. Or I'll just write back and be like, yeah, girl, we should. And then just like never set the time.
That's probably what you will do.
We all do that.
Actually.
It's hard. It's like so hard to communicate those things. It's like just like a regular breakup is hard. Like that's fucking hard, especially if it's something that you've had in your life for like a long time.
Yeah.
We had like a friendship coach on the show. I'm blanking on her name right now. It's Danielle.
I'll find it right
Cool.
now.
Okay. But she's great. I think you guys should definitely talk to her.
Yeah.
I think she's writing a book about friendships, and she's particularly focuses on female friendships, or whatever. I always forget if we're not supposed to say female, whatever. So she was talking about how people only have the capacity for like 5 friends,
right?
Or 5 relationships.
Wow.
5
relationships.
And she was like, and if you're in a serious romantic relationship, you actually only have the capacity for 3 more relationships, which was so interesting because I feel like I have more relationships than that. But I think it is unrealistic to think that you can actually have close, deep friendships with a ton of people, right? Because it takes time, it takes energy, it takes, you know, talking. And so, I mean, you don't have a space for all those friends. So some friends drop off.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally. Yeah,
And also, I feel like people are, I don't know, it's like a fairy tale kind of thing, similar to like dating, where I think people imagine and like fantasize about like relationships with friends being this like deep thing that you can like, they're almost like your diary and you can go to them for everything and they're like your rock and your person. And it's like, it doesn't have to be all of that. Like, of course, it's great to have relationships like that, but I have some friends who literally, they're like, my like RuPaul's Drag Race friend. And like we literally go and like we watch RuPaul together, we laugh, we have a drink, we have a good kiki, and then on to the next one. Of course, like we're cool, but like that's like our thing that we do together. And like it, like I don't know about, you know, their deep dark trauma and all of their like issues, and like that's okay. Like we love that that's like what we do. And you can have different, I think, levels of friendships. I think when a friendship though starts to feel like a burden, or like you're like, I think a lot of people hold on to friendships because it's like hard to have those breakups. You have to start to kind of be like, okay, might have to start having some conversations, hard ones, but like doesn't make sense to hold on to something that isn't serving you. Is that Marie Kondo?
Probably.
Bringing joy.
Spark joy. Yeah.
In terms of like your 20s though, I also think that like in your early 20s, you kind of let shit slide, your boundaries get crossed, and you still keep those friendships. I think the older you get, you're like, oh, I told you this was a boundary and you continue to do it. Okay, you're out now. You know, like things are a little bit like you have less tolerance for things. Which, you know, I think is probably a good thing. You know, I think in my early 20s, I was like, let a lot of shit slide that like I would just never now. And yeah, so those people aren't here anymore. And that's fine.
Oh my goodness, you guys, that was all such good advice. I could touch on every single one, but I won't. But seriously, in so many different levels, I think especially when it comes to different friendships serving different things. Julia and I talk about that when it comes to like relationships, like our romantic relationships and expectations we might have of a partner versus like the void that Julia might fill for me in terms of like what like TV show we talk about, or of course some like deeper level things. Just how different friendships might serve different purposes. And then also when it comes to having those, like figuring out what actually does serve you. I think it can be so tricky because I think we can, like you said, in our earlier 20s, kind of make excuses for people or make excuses for circumstances, or in the same way as someone might do for a long-term, perhaps toxic romantic relationship, being like, oh, I invested so much time in this. And it's not to invalidate that. But I think sometimes we equate the amount of time that we've put into something as like, I don't know, that makes it an exception or something like that. When in reality, it's like something that I know Julia did and a couple of our other friends after their breakups was they made a list of these non-negotiables that it comes for a future partner. And I think that that would be really powerful to do when it comes to like just, you know, people in our life. It doesn't mean you don't talk to somebody who doesn't check off this box, but more so like in terms of maybe somebody that respects my boundaries, somebody that respects my space. I don't know, whatever it may be. I think would be helpful to, without even thinking of a particular person, just what things you value in a friendship, and just kind of, I guess, evaluating the people in your circle and thinking like, are these people serving this space for me right now?
I love that. You guys are very wise.
It's only because people that come on our show teach us things.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
The only reason. But
another thing I wanted to say really quickly is I think in your 20s, also don't be afraid to make new friends. Like you don't have to like be like, oh, well, this is my childhood friend. So like, we're just like, and this is it, like meet new people, like explore new relationships. Like you might have like a friend of a friend that you really are like, every time we hang out, we have such a good time. Like text that person and hang out with them. Like I have made so many friends off of their friends. And then like their like the branches just like extend, and it's great because like there are so many facets of you that you can kind of like explore through different people. Like I'm literally about to go have brunch
Such a
with
good
my
point.
friend's boyfriend's best friend. Like,
Oh,
like it's
Love.
totally random.
No, and it's so funny because that was literally going to be our next question was how do you make new friends? Because I think beyond it be maybe feeling awkward in general or the idea of it feeling awkward, I think that's something that a lot of people in their 20s come up against, whether it's if they did go to college or something, all their college friends don't live close to their hometown anymore. Or maybe they did have friend breakups and now they're like, okay, where do I meet people and where do I meet people when we're in the middle of a pandemic still like in between, like, how do we do that? So what are your tips beyond friends of friends to maybe meeting some new people and lessening the awkward feelings?
I feel like Instagram can help, like you were saying, Sade, with being able to like comment on people's things. Like there's a girl that I want to like be friends with actually on Instagram now, and we're like kind of engaging with each other.
Yeah, I'm like, what?
Be like, let's get drinks sometime.
Wow.
But she also posts a lot about how she like is she follows our show as well, and she's always like, I want to be in a group chat.
I know who that is. Oh, she's
friends.
a sweet girl. Yeah,
she's really sweet. But I just comment on her things. We like she posts something funny, I respond or whatever, and like then you build a little rapport with them in your DMs, and then you could take it off the DMs. I think that's a nice strategy. But I think it helps because I met her in person first, and then we followed each other. So I don't know if that really happens in the pandemic.
Sliding into like a friend DM.
Yeah, it's like not like randomly, but
make it a thing.
Could happen randomly. People meet me on the internet all the time.
Yeah,
like all the time. Yeah.
I love
it. I'm really not great at making new friends. Like my first, when I started in college, I stayed in my dorm room for like a week. I lived in I applied to have a single. They gave me a single as a freshman, and I stayed in my room the entire time. And the only reason why I got friends is because someone made friends with me. So I've just been lucky that I meet people that want to help me. So like maybe if you're not so great at making new friends, maybe you'll get lucky and have a more outgoing friend to help you make friends / people that make you feel like comfortable. I don't know. I don't have advice for this one.
Oh, thank you for the honesty about it, because I mean, and all of you guys, like this whole conversation has been so real and honest, and I can't thank you enough, because sometimes the answer is not just as simple as like, here's the 5 things that you do to make a good, like a new friend. Like that's not the reality of life. Sometimes it is like needing to like put yourself out there, or like texting that friend of a friend and maybe feeling awkward about it. Like that's the truth of the situation. And I think like on what you were saying, Sade, about expanding your friends and making new friends in your 20s is something that sometimes I feel like is looked down on. Like, oh, like why don't you have like a bunch of old friends? Like, why do you just like making new friends? But like, but as we grow up, just as our time becomes really important and we want to make sure, like you were saying, Glynn, about giving it to the right people and spending it on the right things, because our time is limited and our time is valuable, and the more things we have on our plate, the harder it is to like want to give it to things that don't feel 100% fulfilling. And also, like on the other coin of that, like as we grow up, like you want to make new friends, because just as you want to have new experiences, because that's what makes us grow. Like that's what helps us discover parts of ourselves that maybe we didn't know in the past. Or like if we just did the same thing for our whole lives, like we wouldn't really grow very much.
Very boring.
Yeah. And I think some of these newer friends, I agree with you. I think sometimes people are like, oh, I have these super old friends, and they look down, like no new friends. But like I've actually made like some really, I wasn't even thinking of this because they feel like longtime friends, but I have some friends that I've only known for like 4 years. And like I was in one of their like wedding, like and again, like it started off with me with one girl who just like made me feel so, they had a group of friends and I was the new person, and she like welcomed me with open arms and kind of brought me into the group. And like now we all like talk every day. We have our meetups all the time, like, and we are truly friends, but it's only been like 4 years. So yeah, I think new friends can be super valuable, especially in your 20s, because this is like some
Yeah.
crazy shit is going on in these are formative years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh,
You know?
And I
so
think
true.
in other places of meeting people outside of like your network, like as corny as it sounds, like if there's like a hobby or something that you enjoy to do that you kind of
Mhm.
like do in your own zone, and you always see that person in your Pilates class, or
Yes.
like don't feel like shy or ashamed, like you can invite someone for like
Mhm.
coffee or
Get a
like
juice
just like
after Pilates.
just like
Yeah.
kind of like you have to put yourself out there. It's literally like when you're like dating and you have to be like,
You have to put
are you
yourself out
interested
there.
in me? Like, but and you have to be okay with that. So I think that's a good one. Oh, and coworkers,
So
I have
good.
to
I was gonna
say,
say, what about work friends?
I've been
Mm.
so lucky to have
Good work, friends.
incredible coworkers, like people
Yes.
to this day who I like love very, very much. So if you are lucky
Literally.
enough to kind of like develop relationships with your coworkers, like we have group chats of like all the different jobs I've had and the people I was cool with, and like we're still cool and we keep in touch, and like those are some, I think, really valuable ones, because you also have those
Yeah.
inside jokes, like work stuff that like nobody gets, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
just love those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Julia, how
my
has it?
I
Oh,
was just saying, my old coworkers are like my sisters, and when I first met them, I was like really hesitant to be cool with them. To be honest, they put me in, again, I have a texting problem. These are the only girls I'll text. They put me in these group chats. They were texting all day long. I was like, what are y'all talking about? But then I like opened myself up to new friends, honestly, and I'm so happy that I did. Like, I had to get myself out of that mindset that like these are my set people. Like meeting new
Right.
people. Sorry,
Yeah.
you were gonna say something.
No, I mean, I
Yeah.
actually used to always say I'm not in the market for new friends. Like I used to proudly
Mhm.
say that, and now like I made some incredible new friends. But Julie, I was gonna ask, because you moved,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna be moving, and
Oh,
lucky for me,
yeah.
one of my closest friends is in Los Angeles, but
Yeah.
outside of her, I don't know that many people. So how has it been like
Mm.
moving to a new city, meeting new friends, or like what are you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah. I like kind of a combo platter of like everything that we've talked about. Well, so I like talking about the lucky and like having people that make you feel good. Like my boyfriend already lived out here. So
Mm.
he has friends, and I moved in with my best friend from high school, and
Okay.
he's lived out here for a long time, and he already has friends. So like
Nice.
in that luckiness of like friends of friends situation, but I did have like the hesitancy of like, oh well, are they really my friends if I'm just like meeting them
Mhm.
through my boyfriend and my roommate? Like are
Mhm.
they just my boyfriends and my roommate's friends? But cross it, and like I felt that way for like the first like couple weeks, and like honestly it's gone quicker than I thought it would. I thought that would take even more time, but now I already feel like, oh yeah, they're my friends too. And it's like crossing that boundary of like, yeah, like texting like one of his boyfriend's best friend,
Mm-hmm.
his best friend's girlfriend is now one of my like really 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 close friends, and I like value her friendship so much. And like at first I was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to be like just friends with you on the side, like, but
Mhm.
crossing that boundary and like sending the texts and yeah, like finding people that make you feel really comfortable. And it's okay if you met them through like other people. Like that's how you might meet like a significant other, like a friend of a friend. So
Oh, yeah.
why can't we do that with platonic friendships? And then also
Totally.
like you said, Sade, about putting yourself into hobbies. Like I'm an actor, and so like now I've started taking acting class. Yeah,
Nice.
so I've started like taking an in-person acting class, which is like very new. Everything's been on Zoom forever, but now I'm like meeting
Oh,
people in my class and like crossing that boundary there of like, hey, like should we go get a drink? Like you want to meet up before class? Like that kind of stuff. Like
I
that.
need to join your class.
I was
have
about to
go.
say.
Oh my god, Chelsea, I'll tell you all about it. It's so good.
Okay.
It's so good.
I love that.
Yeah, but yeah, that it's been kind of a combo platter of those things, and it was scary at first to be like, oh, am I gonna go out here and like be alone just with like my boyfriend and my one friend, which I'm very lucky to have. Like some people move to a new
No one,
city
yeah.
with absolutely no one. Like I was in a good setup, but I think all the tips that you guys gave are absolutely incredible, and I can't thank you all for being so real and so raw and so honest with us. Like these are the exact kind of conversations that we love to have. And we just have two little last questions before we let you guys go on with your Sunday. We can go around one by one. Since you
Okay.
guys have just, some of you have reached the 30 mark, and the other two are about to.
Yeah.
What if you could give your 20, like looking back now at this 29, 30 age, if you could give your 20s-year-old self one piece of advice or tell her one thing, what would you tell her? You can take your
Respect your
Mm.
boundaries.
time.
That's
Mhm.
how I respect your boundaries with everyone.
Yep. So good. It's so important.
I don't know. I mean, I think I would just say you're doing it right. Maybe like I had a little bit of reflection in turning 30, and I think back on all the things that I did in my 20s, and I'm always like kind of in awe at like my bravery and like all the things that I did. It was like incredible. So yeah.
I love that.
Don't use your credit card like it is free money.
You
'Cause
always
it's
say
really
that.
good
It's
advice.
not. It's not. It's really not something I'm still learning every day. But I could have probably made some wiser financial decisions. I think I would have. I mean, all in all, I think I had so much fun with the money that was being spent. But still, if you can, just reel it in just a little bit.
Love it. Love it.
Goodness. No, all of that is such good advice. Seriously, we respect you guys so much. We admire you so much, between just like the people that you are in the world, what you give to your audience, and the ways in which you've grown. When it comes to your platform, it gives us a lot of hope and all the things when it comes to the same amount of passion that we give to ours. So thank you. And for people that want to connect with you or want to listen to your show, where can they find you?
So you can find us on Instagram at Black Girls Texting. We also have a website, blackgirlstexting.com. We tweet sometimes, Black Girls Text 1. And we started a YouTube because I find that some
Yeah.
people like watching. So
Mhm.
we're on YouTube, Black Girls Texting, and we have a Patreon too. So we do like a little more, raunchy and
Exclusive.
Like the real group
content.
chat.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, this was so fun.
This is great.
Incredible.
You guys are super
Thank you
sweet.
guys so much. This has been incredible. Everyone, go follow Black Girls Texting. Their show is amazing. Their platform is amazing. And we can't thank you guys enough. This has been so fun.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Roaring Twenties podcast. Be sure to rate and review wherever you get your podcasts, and please subscribe. You're never alone. Our pride sticks together. Tune in every Monday and Thursday for new episodes of Roaring Twenties podcast. You get to start your week with us and end your week with us. With love, Brenda and Julia.